This is a movie that makes Korean prosecutors collectively lose sleep. Using a corpse consumed by wild dogs. The film reveals the most hidden power formula in East Asian society. What is even more shocking is that the film predicted 10 years in advance the bloody revenge of South Korea's former President Moon Jae-in. One has not seen this movie yet. Then in the next 23 minutes, one will see a small character's crazy comeback and an extremely ironic story. In 1993, in Mokpa City, school bully Park Tae-soo goes home after school. He surprisingly sees his street hustler father kneeling to a young man. Even when he is brutally beaten by the other person, he still rushes forward to cling to that not-so-sturdy leg. From the whispers of the onlookers, he learns that this green young man is a civil servant. Moreover, he is a prosecutor that countless people desperately want to become. In the country of South Korea, prosecutors are independent legal professionals. At the same time, they are also granted three major powers. The first is extensive investigative power. The second is monopolistic prosecution power. The third is absolute oversight power. With the backing of these three powers, prosecutors hold supreme status in criminal investigations. As for how high that status is, one can refer to the eunuch factions during the Ming dynasty. Therefore, in Korea, whether it is chaebols as rich as a nation, powerful members of parliament, or fierce and brutal gang leaders, after meeting a prosecutor, they all lower their arrogant heads. At this moment, Park Tae-soo finally understands what true power is. His daily fights and dominance at school are merely child's play. After entering society, those nerds he looks down on are the ones who truly hold power. Therefore, he decides that he must become a prosecutor in the future. This is the first metaphor the director lays out. This time, Korea happens to be implementing a policy to expand judicial exam admissions. And this expansion of POW under the guise of democratization creates suit-wearing thugs more brutal than gangsters. After returning to school, Park Tae-soo pricks up his ears and crams knowledge. However, he is no different from most poor students. The teacher has barely spoken a few sentences when his head hits the desk. The student sitting in front wanted to wake him up, but the teacher stopped him. The teacher told the others not to wake him up. The teacher asked who would do bad things in this country if everyone became a lawyer. Prosecutor, or doctor. He asks if the young man will do it. Calling him a punk, he tells them to let him sleep and not mind him. Final exams are approaching, and Park Tae-soo feels very disappointed. Even his favorite ice skating does not interest him at all. His companion, unable to bear it any longer, suggested he study here instead. Park Tae-soo originally does not take it seriously. But after he picks up the book, he discovers that the content he cannot read at his desk. He now understands easily. From then on, Park Tae-soo begins to frantically catch up on his missed lessons. He studies while fighting, and the noisier the place, the faster he learns. In just 1 month, he jumps from last place to 12th place. The teacher praises him while taking off his watch. The teacher says he works hard. He works hard. He calls him a punk. He warns that cheating should also be moderate. The teacher called him a shameless person. Park Tae-soo says it is not like that. Seeing Park Tae-soo still refuses to admit it, the teacher directly arranges a separate exam for him. As a result, Park Tae-soo not only finishes the first test paper early but also surpasses his previous score. After receiving the teacher's apology, Park Tae-soo, with a first-place score, gets into Seoul National University's law department. This greatly shocks the bookworms who study diligently. After entering university, Park Tae-soo achieves great success in both academics and love. But before he can take things further, the police appear before him. He later learns that his girlfriend, who always dislikes the democratization movement, is actually one of the main representatives of university students nationwide. Thus, Park Tae-soo is forcibly enlisted into the military for assisting a wanted criminal in his escape. Although the distance to his dream is further extended, he does not give up. Instead, he brings books into his dormitory. After this, Park Tae-soo seems to have a cheat code as he prepares for only 2 years and passes the written exam that the current president only passed after 9 attempts. During the interview, the examiner asks him how to make the deepest impression in the shortest amount of time. In this way, Park Tae-soo successfully obtains a ticket to cross social classes and with it marries the eldest daughter of a chaebol family. His father-in-law was once sentenced to probation for corruption. After paying a fine of 7 billion won, he decided to seek a prosecutor to defend him. Therefore, he is very satisfied with Park Tae-soo. Right after the wedding, he buys him a luxury car. However, after he officially starts his job, he finds that he has no time at all to show off. Instead, he is exhausted. Every day, he not only handles more than 30 trivial cases but also deals with all sorts of unreasonable criminals. Until 2 years later, an assault case completely changes Park Tae-soo's fate. Although there is conclusive evidence that the physical education teacher assaulted a student. Because his father is a powerful member of the National Assembly and the girl's mother has some intellectual disabilities, the physical education teacher only pays a settlement of 5 million won. And the case is dropped. Park Tae-soo does not want to see justice arbitrarily twisted, so he begins to reinvestigate on his own. However, after he apprehends the culprit, the girl's mother refuses to testify. Immediately after, his senior from many years ago also comes to visit him. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Yong Dong-chul uses the excuse of getting a late-night snack and takes Park Tae-soo all the way to Seoul. Then he takes him into the strategic department of the Central Prosecutor's office. He dreams of reaching this peak. Under Park Tae-soo's puzzled gaze, Yong Dong-chul opens the door to the archive room. He sees that countless case files are piled up in this endless room. Yong Dong-chul proudly tells Park Tae-soo that all the cases here are unresolved. He explains that if even one is exposed, it can cause a huge uproar nationwide. The reason they put the files here is to let these cases ferment. When they feel there is a hot topic, they then bring it out for exposure. This way, they can rightfully make headlines and thus gain more power. As they talk, the two enter the innermost room, and Yong Dong-chul finally reveals his true purpose. He can recommend Park Tae-soo to the strategy department, but the condition is not to prosecute the physical educate teacher's case anymore. Park Tae-soo wants to refuse. Unexpectedly, Yong Dong-chul directly kneels on the ground. Park Tae-soo asks his senior to get up first. Yong Dong-chul addresses Park Tae-soo. Yong Dong-chul says that self-respect is only temporary. He asks who is not a Seoul National University graduate and who has not passed the bar exam. He states that a wise man adapts to circumstances. He tells Park Tae-soo that he must understand that as long as he joins this camp, he can save 10 years of struggle. He tells him to come over and sit down. Yong Dong-chul takes out a magazine. He directly states that the celebrity on it once used drugs. The content in the videotape serves as evidence. If something unfavorable to them appears, they can use it to divert media attention. After saying that, Yong Dong-chul walks out of the room. He leaves Park Tae-soo to think clearly before making a decision. Looking at the unbearable images on TV, Park Tae-soo freezes in place. What shocks him even more is that Yong Dong-chul appears next to the celebrity. He even calls out his name. Clearly, this content is freshly recorded. Park Tae-soo's resolve instantly begins to waver violently. After a night of intense internal struggle, he ultimately accepts Yong Dong-chul's olive branch, ordered to make his conscience slightly more at ease. Park Tae-soo adjusts the case's settlement amount to 50 million. What's ironic is that the girl's mother even sends stir-fried rice cakes to express gratitude. This makes Park Tae-soo even more ashamed. After the sports teacher is acquitted and released, Yong Dong-chul brings him to Seoul's largest restaurant. The top floor here, which is not open to the public, is their secret base. As the elevator continuously ascends, the outside scenery is like a slowly unfolding scroll painting. The sights that Park Tae-soo once saw. The towering building rapidly shrinks at a visible speed, as if a submissive subject bows its proud head before his rise. Although Park Tae-soo is already mentally prepared, when he truly sees it, his heart still feels an indescribable shock. He sees the room filled with beautiful women, all nestled in the arms of powerful figures. Presidents of leading companies, journalists from mainstream media, partners from top law firms, and leaders of gang factions are present. However, before Mr. Han, who just enters the room, The aura of these people instantly pales. Because he is the absolute king here. He is also Park Tae-soo's idol for many years. Han Kong-sik passes the judicial examination at 20 years old. In the war against criminal organizations, he rectifies Mokpa City and removes all officials from the Kim Young-sam regime. He is the most popular candidate for the next prosecutor general. He purges the key figures of the military dictatorship. All cases he handles receive widespread attention. He is a contributor to the national government and a great hero in the eyes of the people. As Park Tae-soo is in a daze, Yang Dong-chul pulls him in front of Han Kong-sik and even specifically praises him. The other party only nods his head. What Park Tae-soo least expects is that the physical education teacher is also here. And judging by his condition, he clearly joined this faction long ago. When he hears that they should shake hands and reconcile, Park Tae-soo's face is filled with disdain. Seeing that Han Kong-sik is a bit unhappy, Yang Dong-chul quickly pulls the two men aside. Unexpectedly, after only a few words, the physical education teacher starts to gloat. An exasperated Park Tae-soo stands up and leaves directly. As a result, he completely enrages Han Kong-sik. What kind of airs is he putting on? The director also embeds a metaphor in this scene. What Han Kong-sik slaps on Park Tae-soo's face is not a mere slap. It is the uncertainty principle of the entire Korean judicial system. When he becomes a prosecutor, does he think the world belongs to him? His emotions are all written on his face. Yang Dong-chul said, "Mr. Director." He apologizes. Park Tae-soo is a newcomer and still has his own beliefs. He should throw away his useless pride, sense of justice, and those old-fashioned ideas. Is he a child? How much hardship has he endured? His family background does not seem good either. Is it because he participates in the democratization movement that he is like this? He knows that he is arrested because of his girlfriend. Han Kong-sik told Yang Dong-chul to shut up. Han Kong-sik asked if Park Tae-soo wanted to return after having climbed to this position. Han Kong-sik asked if Park Tae-soo wanted to open a law firm specializing in divorce cases. Or does he want to provide legal consulting services? Han Kong-sik asked if Park Tae-soo had to endure so many hardships just to work in the service industry. He tells them to follow the lessons of history. He asks if he still needs to teach them history. He advises them to stand next to power, abandon their self-respect, and cling to it tightly. He states that no one who lets go of power or fights against it ever succeeds. He claims there are no such people in their history and challenges them to name one. He asks what happened to the pro-Japanese collaborators. He explains that they all became chaebols and high-ranking political officials, gaining power and influence in Korea. He then asks about the independence fighters. He says they live on meager monthly pensions, constantly hungry. Han Kong-sik called Park Tae-soo a country bumpkin. At this moment, Park Tae-soo feels full of shame. Not because the idol embarrassed him, but because every word Han Kong-sik says is reality. So, he makes a bold decision. Park Tae-soo yelled loudly in the face of the physical education teacher. Park Tae-soo announced they would raise a glass to celebrate their unity with the physical education teacher. Amidst everyone's surprised gazes, Park Tae-soo drags the gym teacher to the center, forcibly resolving the animosity between the two sides. This action somewhat defies Han Kong-sik. But this precisely proves that he is a good prospect who knows how to adapt to circumstances. As the laughter in the room rings out again, Park Tae-soo officially becomes a member of Han Kong-sik's faction, and the justice and beliefs he once held are completely swallowed by the torrent of reality at this moment. After the party ends, the physical education teacher provokes him again, and even specifically mentions the girl's skin. At this moment, Park Tae-soo can no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Unexpectedly, a figure rushes out from behind him and violently attacks the physical education teacher. Then, with a kick, he neutralized the evil root of the physical education teacher. As Park Tae-soo feels confused, The other person voluntarily says his name. Park Tae-soo looks closely, and the door of memory instantly opens. Choi Dul is his high school classmate. But unlike him, Choi Dul joined the Wild Dog Gang when he was in school, and also became the boss's right-hand man. Now, he is specifically responsible for the security work of the secret base. The Wild Dog Gang was originally the second largest gang in Mokpa City. But in the war with the crime syndicate, the Sunflower Gang is eliminated by Hankong Shik. So, they become the largest gang in Mokpa City. From this, it is not difficult to see that the war with the crime syndicate that shocked all of Korea back then is merely a pretense for Hong Kong Shik to cultivate his thugs. With the help of the Wild Dog Gang, those who dare to oppose Hong Kong Shik all end up in the dogs' stomachs. The two men, who have not seen each other for many years, are very excited. Back then, they are both well-known figures in school, but they never fight each other. To make up for their childhood regrets, the two men go to a nearby playground to spar. However, their identities now have already undergone drastic changes. How can they ever find the purity and passion of their youth again? Choi Dul and Park Tae-soo were sitting and talking when they realized that the physical education teacher was really a troublemaker. Choi Dul told Park Tae-soo not to worry. Choi Dul told Park Tae-soo that he should always live in the light. Afterward, matters involving such people, all the stinky, dirty trash will be handled by Choi Dul. He will solve it. Park Tae-soo is a person with a future. He should not get involved in such matters. Choi Dul already does many dirty deeds. It makes no difference. He will protect him, just like Kim Eung-soo stands behind Hong Kong Shik protecting him. And this is why Choi Dul actively seeks out Park Tae-soo. Because he knows very well that if he relies solely on his own strength, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot surpass Kim Eung-soo. Park Tae-soo now faces the same dilemma. So only if they support each other do they have a chance to climb to a higher place. Plus, the two of them are from the same village. They are definitely much more reliable than outsiders. Afterward, Choi Dul surrenders with the sports teacher and receives a sentence of 1.5 years in prison. Seeing Park Tae-soo catch on so quickly, Hong Kong Shik immediately takes him under his wing. It is from this moment that Park Tae-soo truly tastes the flavor of power. Whether it is a chaebol as rich as a nation, a powerful politician, or a brutal gang leader, as long as Hong Kong Shik chooses them, the files in the archives will surely bring them down. Meanwhile, they make headlines and gain both fame and fortune. Suddenly, Park Tae-soo becomes the brightest star in the strategy department. His father-in-law is the first to taste the benefits. Those unattainable large corporations, which were usually out of reach, actively seek him out for cooperation. His father also starts a business with his younger sister. Although they are constantly scammed, it is much better than being a street loafer. Choi Dul, who should have been in prison for 1.5 years, not only sees a great improvement in his living conditions but also has his sentence shortened by half. As for Park Tae-soo's Sang-hee, she moves from the most demanding morning news. She directly moves to the 6 p.m. prime time slot. As Park Tae-soo's status continuously rises, the outside world begins to regard him on par with Han Kong Shik and Yang Dong-chul. They call them the golden triangle of the strategy department. But good times do not last long, as the general election brings his promotion path to an abrupt halt. The same time, it also makes Park Tae-soo realize that even prosecutors with immense power fear presidential election. Because every time there is a transition of old and new regimes, it triggers a large-scale internal purge, so no one can guarantee that they can safely get through it. This makes the entire prosecutor's office shrouded in unease. Even Hong Kong Shik is no exception. But due to the decision-making power of the election results being in the hands of the people, no one can guess which candidate will be elected. Seeing that the chief prosecutor is already so anxious that he loses his mind, Hong Kong Shik, in desperation, decides to earn his bridges, directly handing over the evidence of the opposing camp's crimes to their close candidate Kim Dae-jun. Is even more ironic is that Han Kong Shik also specifically finds a master to perform rituals and pray. Attempt and increase their chances of winning. On the day the election results are announced, everyone stares intently at the television. Fortunately, their supported Kim Dae-jung is successfully elected. Han Kong-shik and the others' long-suppressed emotions instantly erupt. Afterward, they return to their secret base and celebrate wildly. Although the director does not provide a detailed visual description here, but the increasingly tall champagne tower on the table undoubtedly proves that Han Kong-shik's influence is rapidly expanding. After the presidential transition is officially completed, Kim Dae-jung gives him a big gift in return. When he learns he is responsible for cleaning up the opposing faction's influence, Han Kong-shik acts and preliminary investigation as a domestic matter, and takes the opportunity to eliminate all his enemies. Thus, Han Kong-shik's power reaches an unprecedented height. Not only do police clear the way wherever he goes, but even the beach in the military-restricted zone becomes their exclusive spot for sunbathing. Seeing that Park Tae-soo has already climbed to the peak of power, Choi Dul also has the intention to leave the Wild Dog Gang. Relying on the illegally embezzled real estate from the previous cleanup operation, plus the cash stolen from Kim Eung-soo on a daily basis, he soon establishes his own influence. And he also expands wildly in the Gangnam district. After Park Tae-soo receives the news, he intends to stop him. When he thinks that he can take over the strategic department in a few years, he tacitly approves Choi Dul's action. However, he overlooks a crucial matter. All that Kim Eung-soo handles is Han Kong-shik's money. Soon he receives a warning from Han Kong-shik. Han Kong-shik warns him about what happens if a dog is not raised well. It bites its owner. There are many rumors in Mokba now. A dog is a dog. It does not become a human after being raised for a long time. Han Kong-shik wants Park Tae-soo to treat Choi Dul like a dog. Han Kong-shik wants to make sure they understand. Park Tae-soo agrees. Han Kong-shik does not let the Wild Dog Gang take action. Not to save Park Tae-soo's face. Instead, because the new presidential election is about to begin, and to secure the Prosecutor General position in 1 gram, Han Kong-shik has to keep his distance from the Wild Dog Gang. But at this moment, Park Tae-soo is already blinded by power. He not only fails to notice this, but instead gets involved with a young starlet. Unexpectedly, his wife discovers them after only a few days and kicks him out of the house in front of everyone. One trouble follows another. His father and younger sister are cheated again due to illegal fundraising. To get the money back, Park Tae-soo has to ask Choi Dul to intervene. As a result, he gets targeted by the special investigation team. And the most despairing thing is that Roh Moo-yeon, one of the candidates, is a lawyer by profession and advocates judicial reform. Once this person is elected president, what awaits them is far more than just being purged. But whether they submit documents or perform rituals and prayers, nothing can stop the will of the people. Everything is over. The previous incident of chasing money immediately appears in the newspaper. As news of the prosecutor colluding with gangsters rapidly spreads, Han Kong-shik completely loses his chance for advancement. Enraged, he directly resorts to violence in public. Yang Dong-chul tries to smooth things over, but Han Kong-shik takes out all his anger on him. He then transfers Park Tae-soo to the countryside. At the same time, Choi Dul is also purged by the Wild Dog Gang. Fortunately, the special investigation team arrests him first, preventing him from being devoured by the wild dogs. After reorganizing his forces, Han Kong-shik immediately launches an attack on Roh Moo-yeon. He knows very well that once the election document delivery incident is exposed, the other party will not give him any way out. Soon, news reports of Roh Moo-yeon's bribery air on television. Immediately after, a wave of impeachment sweeps across the nation. Seeing the situation grow increasingly tense, Park Tae-soo quickly contacts Yang Dong-chul, attempting to use this opportunity to return to the strategy department. However, he is rejected before he even finishes speaking. Park Tae-soo believes the storm has not yet passed. But even after Roh Moo-yeon steps down, he still does not receive a call. To get Han Kong-shik's attention, he returns the money Choi Dul hid to the Wild Dog Gang. But it is still useless. Immediately after, people from the special investigation team come to his door. They hope he can provide valuable evidence to expose Han Kong-shik. Park Tae-soo immediately smells an opportunity. After An Hee-yeon leaves, he immediately rushes to the central prosecutor's office to report the situation. He tries to use this to gain Han Kong-shik's favor. However, he cannot even enter the main gate and is pulled aside by Yong Dong-chul. Yong Dong-chul calls him a bastard, saying he does not understand the situation. Park Tae-soo asks what is happening. Yong Dong-chul tells him he is truly blind. Yong Dong-chul asks how old he is. Park Tae-soo asks what this means. Mr. Dong-chul. Yong Dong-chul said that since Park Tae-soo had been transferred to a rural area, Park Tae-soo should have known better and resigned. Otherwise, he should obediently step aside. Park Tae-soo keeps calling non-stop. Now Park Tae-soo even dares to come here to complain. What a blind fool. Yong Dong-chul asks if he shows up like this and the investigative unit investigates them through him. How will he take responsibility? Yong Dong-chul told Park Tae-soo to behave properly and stay away. Yong Dong-chul called Park Tae-soo a bastard. At this moment, Park Tae-soo finally realizes that from the moment he was transferred to the countryside, he was already useless pawn. At the same time, Choi Dul is released early due to good behavior. After returning to Gangnam, he immediately gathers his subordinates to prepare for revenge. Learning that all his savings were returned to the Wild Dog Gang, he leads his men to Yeoju overnight. But just as his subordinates prepare to act, he suddenly changes his mind. At this moment, Park Tae-soo appears like a broken puppet, limply slumping to the ground and allowing the rain to mercilessly lash him. Choi Dul immediately guesses the money's purpose. At the same time, he understands that his good brother never betrayed him and that both are merely sacrifices in this power struggle. What he does not expect is that Han Kong-shik and Yong Dong-chul actually show up at his door. Park Tae-soo is also very shocked. And when he hears they want to take him for a late-night snack, he is even more moved beyond words and gets into TH car without thinking. On the way, the three chat and laugh, as if they have returned to their Golden Triangle era. However, just then, an accident suddenly occurs. After losing control, the car crashes into the median strip. Fortunately, only the rear is hit. The three only sustain minor injuries. What Park Tae-soo cannot understand is, Han Kong-shik does not even look at him and takes Yong Dong-chul to another hospital. Not until a capture operation 6 months later does Park Tae-soo learn the truth from Choi Dul's subordinate. That day, Han Kong-shik and the other man come to find him, actually wanting to take him to the Wild Dog Gang to be silenced. Choi Dul does not want to see his good brother die tragically, so he drives to stop the two men. Afterward, he even uses all his money to buy a suit and charges alone into the Wild Dog Gang's territory for revenge. Outnumbered, he is ultimately erased by Kim Eung-soo's men. Although Choi Dul does not achieve his ideal even until his death, he upholds his promise of brotherhood with his life. Choi Dul said he would protect Park Tae-soo, just like Kim Eung-soo sided with Han Kong-shik. After learning the truth, Park Tae-soo is deeply mired in guilt and cannot extricate himself. If he had not refused to accept the truth, Choi Dul would not have met such a tragic end. But Han Kong-shik does not let him off the hook because of this. Soon, his father is arrested and sent to prison. Immediately after, Yong Dong-chul calls him, telling him to resign from his prosecutor position at once, or else he and his father will never have a chance to meet again. The successive blows completely crush Park Tae-soo. The wine in his hand remains unfinished. He faints and falls to the ground as past memories flash through his mind like a slideshow. He wonders what would happen if he had helped clear the girl's name back then. He wonders what would happen if he hadn't fallen into their trap and lived like 99% of other prosecutor. But life simply does not have so many what-ifs. Every choice he makes is like spilled water that cannot be taken back. In a daze, the news reports Roh Moo-yun's passing on television. His suicide note only contains a short sentence, stating that this period of life is too difficult and asking not to be blamed. Watching the weeping public on screen, Park Tae-soo deeply knows that if he does not fight back soon, the same outcome awaits him. So he takes out all his savings and creates a lawyer's identity for himself. He then finds Ahn Hee-yeon, who was also demoted, preparing to team up for revenge. However, he is informed that Hong Kong-shik has now become the chief prosecutor. And with just the two of them, they cannot even make a ripple. But Park Tae-soo does not give up. He then immediately finds Sang-hee. When Sang-hee sees the fawning in his eyes replaced by his original fierceness and sharpness, she immediately proposes remarriage. As the young miss of a chaebol family, she has long been accustomed to all kinds of betrayal. The main reason she originally drives Park Tae-soo out of the house is that she does not want to see her ambitious husband turn into a dog for Han Kong-shik and his associates. With his father-in-law's help, Park Tae-soo meets key figures of the opposition party. After learning about his specific situation, the other party immediately plans a press conference called the Conscience Declaration. He uses the exposure of the prosecution's dark secrets as a stepping stone for his parliamentary election campaign. This combination of moves makes it difficult for Hong Kong-shik to cope. So he tries to threaten Park Tae-soo with his family's safety. But instead, he receives the exact location of his own family. Seeing that Park Tae-soo is determined to fight to the death, Hong Kong-shik immediately holds a press conference, preparing to use the files he possesses to divert the attention of the entire nation. But Park Tae-soo already knows his tactics inside out. So he publicly announces at the press conference that he will withdraw his nomination for parliamentary candidate and directly run in the next presidential election. As soon as this news breaks, all news media rush towards Park Tae-soo's venue. Hong Kong-shik tries to cover it up with a bigger topic. But the archives contain no files that can compete with it. The Declaration of Judicial Reform echoes through the entire venue. The bullet of justice shoots directly at Hong Kong-sh. And his carefully constructed Tower of Power also collapses at this moment. At the end of the film, Park Tae-soo, supported by his family and the opposition party, takes to the streets to campaign. For him, whether he can successfully get elected is not important. What matters is that he finds his original self again. Yang Dong-chul answers questions at the press conference. As a prosecutor of Korea, he causes social resentment, and he is very sorry. He also wants to tell his daughter studying in America that her father is sorry.